we're going to jump to verse 17. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, "To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites." Kenites.
You got it.
You're laughing with us? Oh, the Chalmanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites.
All the sites.
Now, what is that all? What does all that mean?
It's a strange, it's a strange covenant ritual that we have here in Genesis, and there's a lot of commentaries and a lot of speculation on what this means. This cutting in half of these animals and laying them opposite each other, and then this vision of this smoking furnace or fire pot and furnace moving between the sacrifice. And one of the thoughts, and no one really knows for sure, but one of the thoughts is when you make a covenant and you sacrifice an animal, that you're basically saying, if I break this covenant, I am going to become like this animal that's been split in two. Yeah. Again, it's a lot of speculation as to what the real meaning of this ritual and this vision is. But one of the things that the commentaries seem to really agree on is that, as you mentioned to me earlier, fire and smoke is always sort of a symbol of the presence of God, and it is God who moves through that sacrifice and really takes on the responsibility for that covenant. You'll notice that Abraham doesn't walk through the sacrifice, although Abraham does play a role. He does. When the sacrifice is laid out, the birds of prey come down and try to pick away at the sacrifice, and Abraham, shoos them away. So he does play a role. But
so normally in that day and time, if a covenant was being made between two people, they would lay all these things out, and both of them would walk through
and take responsibility, ultimately saying, and again, this is kind of the speculation for a lot of historians, that if we break this covenant, we'll become like this dismembered animal that we've laid down before us. Strange ritual, and I think the important part of it here is that God makes this covenant, however strangely it's symbolized. But God makes this covenant with Abram, and God has taken the responsibility for that covenant, and holds true to that covenant, as we'll see as the story goes on.
We'll be talking to kids today, or in class, also about how covenants are made today, and the court system and legal documents and that kind of thing. But they didn't have those. No,
this is what they came up with.
That's right. All right, we're jumping to Genesis 17.
This is my favorite part of the story, actually, here, but please, go ahead.
Okay. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you, and will greatly increase your numbers." Abram fell face down, and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. The whole land of Canaan, where you are now an alien, I will give you as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you. I will be their God." And that's that really critical part that we're trying to help kids understand that
Yeah.
even though these promises were made a long time ago, through our baptism, we claim these promises
Yeah.
today.
And I love this part of the story because whenever there's a name change, that's a big deal back in the history and culture of biblical times. Abram means exalted ancestor, whereas Abraham means ancestor of the multitude. So by the very change of Abram's name to Abraham, that covenant, that promise now is not just fulfilled, but he's named for the fulfilling of that promise, that he will become again the father of many nations. Yeah.
With many nations. And then a little bit later on, Sarai gets a name change also. As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm guessing this is your favorite part.
Well, yes.
One of them.
Absolutely.
Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90?
Yeah.
And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. Then God said, yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him.
Yeah. And again, names are important, and the meaning of the name Isaac
Is laughter.
is laughter. Isaac
Yeah.
is laughter. But I've always said as a pastor that God has a sense of humor. In fact, that's how I can become a pastor, because God has a great sense of humor. But here you see this great interplay between God and Abram.